Hello everyone, welcome back to Airlines Quest. We've got a lot to talk about today, with some major developments in the aviation world. Starting with the NBA leasing its own fleet of Airbus, to Qatar Airways making a bold move into the Australian market, and Boeing facing new safety concerns around its 737 models. There's a lot to unpack, so let's jump right into it. Let's kick things off with some exciting news from the world of sports and aviation. The U.S. National Basketball Association, NBA, is reportedly planning to lease its very own fleet of 13 Airbus A321neo. Yes, you heard that right. The NBA is stepping up its game when it comes to air travel. So, why exactly is the league making this move? Well, it all comes down to player welfare. The NBA's own data shows that their athletes spend more time flying than any other professional sports players. And this frequent travel takes a toll, not just on how they feel, but also on how they perform. You've got to remember, these athletes are playing at the highest level, and every little detail can affect their game. In fact, 54% of injuries in the NBA happen when teams are playing away from home. Kind of makes you wonder, right? Could the travel itself be a key factor in those injuries? And here's something interesting. Teams flying west tend to lose more often than when they fly east. Now, this could be due to a number of reasons. Jet lag, time zone differences, or even the wear and tear on the body from long-haul flights. Either way, the NBA wants to fix this, and that's where the new fleet of A321neo comes in. Now, let's talk about the logistics. There are 30 teams in the NBA, each with a roster capped at 18 players. But it's not just the players who need to travel. You've also got coaching staff, medical teams, equipment managers, and of course, a significant amount of gear. Each team plays 82 games between October and April, with roughly half of those being away games. That's a lot of flights and a lot of time spent in the air. This isn't entirely new for the league. The Detroit Pistons were actually the first team to start chartering planes back in 1987, and it wasn't long before other teams followed suit. Today, a number of teams already have their own dedicated aircraft. The Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers, Dallas Mavericks, Golden State Warriors, Houston Rockets, and LA Lakers all fly in style. And let's not forget some of the league's top players, who have taken things to another level altogether. Michael Jordan, for example, owns a custom Gulfstream 4, while Magic Johnson flies in a Gulfstream 3, Shaquille O'Neal and Dwyane Wade, they often use private charters, like the Hawker 800. So what's wrong with the current setup? Well, Delta currently covers most NBA flights using a fleet of 11 Boeing 757s. These planes are configured for VIP travel, but they're getting old, over 34 years old on average. That's where the Airbus A321neo come in. These planes are not just newer, they're more advanced and efficient. The NBA is reportedly in talks with Irish lessor SMBC to lease 13 of these aircraft, which will be reconfigured into a VIP layout by Comlux in Indianapolis. And here's the kicker, Delta is still expected to operate these planes, so the transition should be pretty seamless. What makes the A321neo so special? For one, they'll have technology designed to help reduce jet lag, like customizable lighting and cabin pressure that mimics a lower altitude. Plus, the planes will feature lie-flat beds and humidifiers, making the flights as comfortable as possible. And considering the average NBA player is over 6 feet 6 inches tall, these beds will be longer than your standard first-class seat, probably necessary when you've got guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert on board. And let's not forget about the future. The NBA is looking to add 2 more teams, which means they'll likely need at least 1 more plane in their fleet. This is a big investment, but one that could pay off in terms of player health, team performance, and overall logistics. Next up, let's talk about Qatar Airways and their latest attempt to break into the Australian market. Qatar Airways has announced plans to acquire a 25% stake in Virgin Australia, a move that could shake up the airline industry down under. But why is this such a big deal? Well, you've got to remember that Virgin Australia is the country's second largest airline, but it has largely focused on domestic routes, especially after the pandemic. The airline paused its international flights and even scrapped its Tokyo route due to low demand. So, this partnership could mark a major shift for Virgin Australia, allowing the airline to re-enter the international market in a big way. If the deal goes through, and it's currently awaiting approval from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, Virgin Australia could launch flights from Sydney, Perth, Brisbane, and Melbourne to Doha as early as mid-2025. These flights would operate under a wet lease program, where Qatar Airways would provide not just the aircraft, but also the crew, maintenance, and insurance. Now, this isn't Qatar Airways' first attempt to increase its presence in Australia. They previously tried to get approval to add more flights to Sydney, but the Australian government blocked the move, citing national interests. And guess who was behind that opposition? Qantas, Australia's largest airline. Qantas has been pretty vocal in its opposition to Qatar increasing its footprint in the country, and you can bet they'll be watching this deal closely. Outgoing Virgin Australia CEO Jane Hrdlicka has said that this partnership could generate around 3 billion Australian dollars in additional tourism and create more jobs in the Australian aviation sector. It also means more competition, which could lead to better prices and more options for consumers. But what do you think? Will this partnership be the shakeup that the Australian market needs, or will Qantas continue to dominate? Finally, let's turn to Boeing, which is once again facing safety concerns, this time around its 737 models. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, has issued urgent safety recommendations after discovering potential risks with the rudder control systems on certain 737. This all came to light after a February incident involving a United Airlines flight, where the rudder pedals on a MAX 8 got stuck during landing at Newark. Thankfully, no one was injured, but the situation raised serious concerns. And here's the worrying part. The NTSB found that 2 foreign operators had similar issues in 2019. The problem seems to lie with the rollout guidance actuators, which are part of an optional landing system installed on some 737 MAX and next-generation NG models. While no U.S. airlines are currently operating planes with these components, the NTSB believes that over 40 foreign airlines might still be using them. Boeing has been criticized for not informing United Airlines and potentially other carriers about these actuators. The NTSB is worried that flight crews may not know what to expect if this system fails, especially at low altitude or during landing. And that's a huge safety risk, isn't it? Imagine a pilot not being aware of a malfunctioning system while trying to land a plane. Boeing has said that it notified affected operators back in August, but the NTSB and FAA aren't satisfied. The FAA is planning additional simulator testing this month, and Boeing shares took a 2.7% hit after the news broke. This is just the latest in a series of safety concerns for Boeing, which has faced multiple issues with its 737 models in recent years, including that Alaska Airlines MAX 9 incident where 4 bolts were missing. The big question is, how will this affect Boeing's reputation moving forward? Will airlines continue to trust the 737, or will they start looking elsewhere? Only time will tell. And that's a wrap for today. What do you think about these developments? Do you think the NBA's new fleet will make a difference in player performance? Will Qatar Airways finally get a foothold in Australia? And what's your take on Boeing's latest safety issues? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.